When my boss disregarded my claims, the feds revealed a life-changing truth in 6 months. Clara's heart raced as she wiped down the counter at the diner, the fluorescent lights flickering above her, creating an unsettling rhythm. She was exhausted, muscles aching from the double shift that seemed to stretch on forever. But tonight, she felt a dark cloud of uncertainty thickening in the air. Something more profound lurking just beyond the hours she poured into her work as a waitress. Every dollar she made mattered, especially with her father, a proud Vietnam veteran, depending on her more than ever. His sacrifices echoed in her mind, and she carried them like a badge, pushing through the exhaustion, believing that better days were ahead. That evening, she caught sight of her boss, Sal, slipping something into a customer's hand, a small, hardened object that sent a chill down her spine. The regulars at the diner came and went, oblivious to Sal's shady dealings. Clara battled with her gut, torn between her loyalty to her job and the stirring call of justice. Should she stay silent, painting over the truth with the broad strokes of survival, or risk everything to protect the community she loved? As days turned into weeks, her internal struggle weighed heavily on her shoulders. The cycle of work, eat, and sleep became relentless. When she finally found the courage to confront Sal, her heart raced, searching for words that would change everything. Instead, his dismissive laugh echoed in her ears. "A waitress questioning my authority?" His words sliced through her, leaving her humiliated and furious. But it ignited something fierce within, a spark of defiance, igniting her determination. Before she could gather her thoughts, a federal agent contacted her. They had been investigating the diner and the troubling activities she had spotted. Terrified yet exhilarated, Clara felt the weight of her father's sacrifices and the love for her community fueling her resolve. The innocence of her small-town life shattered, but so did the chains of isolation that had held her captive. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But the aftermath of her choice wasn't what she expected. Whispers surrounded her like vultures. Friends turned their backs, leaving her standing alone, feeling like a pariah in her own community. Yet, as Clara faced the judgment, a small group of local residents rallied around her, sharing their own stories of struggle and resilience. One night, sitting around the dinner table with these newfound allies, she realized they felt the same pain. They too wanted more for their community, a chance. Inspired, Clara began organizing town meetings, lighting a fire in their hearts, a movement against the illegal activities that had plagued their streets too long. Just as hope began to blossom, powerful interests, desperate to silence her, emerged. Clara stood on the precipice of change, caught between duty and justice, loyalty and integrity, each decision threatening to slice even deeper into her heart. With her community behind her, she readied herself for what lay ahead. Just when the stakes were highest, a call from a contact brought unexpected news that could alter everything. Should she choose safety, slipping into the shadows, or rise up fight? As these thoughts swirled in her mind, she could feel the weight of her father's love pulsing through her, stronger than ever. What would she choose, and at what cost? Clara sat in her small kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the heavy silence. The walls, once adorned with childhood laughter, felt like they were closing in. She stared at the walls, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew something needed to change, but the enormity of what lay ahead made her freeze. The meeting she had scheduled with her supporters loomed like a storm cloud. "Clara, we're with you," Sarah, a single mother who had been one of the first to rally around her, had said in a voice that wrapped around Clara like a warm blanket. That encouragement pulled her from the depths of despair, but doubt still crept in. What if they failed? What if Sal and his people struck first? She glanced at her phone. Another message dings, but this one was different from the others. "They're getting nervous. Meet me at the old mill. Midnight." The words sent a shiver down her spine. Was this the contact sending her into a trap? Or were they genuinely trying to help? As she wrestled with her thoughts, memories of her father flooded back. his steadfastness during impossible times. He had taught her to be brave, to stand up when others stayed silent. It was time to honor that lesson, time to step out from the shadows. The diner buzzed that night, filled with the usual sounds of clanking plates and laughter, but Clara felt detached. She put on her best smile for the customers, all the while her mind raced with fleeting thoughts of the old mill. What if this was the turning point? Amid the chaos of orders and busy chatter, she finally caught Sal's eye. He wore a smug expression, arranging a stack of cash in his back office. The sight ignited a fire inside her. Just as she finished her shift, Clara gathered her small group of supporters. They huddled in the corner booth, tension riding high as Clara explained the mysterious message. "We have to be cautious," she urged, looking around at the determined faces. But if there's even a chance to turn the tide and expose Sal, the expressions around her shifted from concern to resolve. They each had reasons for wanting to fight back. Sarah spoke first. "I have 2 kids, Clara. I don't want them to grow up in a world where this is normal." Each voice added to the chorus of courage, wrapping around Clara as tightly as a safety net. As midnight approached, Clara's palms grew sweaty, the weight of their hopes resting heavily on her. They all piled into Sarah's car, hearts in sync, as they drove through roads lined with rustling trees, their silhouettes transformed by moonlight. The old mill loomed ahead, its dilapidated structure casting eerie shadows against the glow of the moon. "Are we really doing this?" muttered James, one of the youngest in the group, his voice trembling slightly. Clara nodded, her heart racing both with fear and adrenaline. "We have to. For everyone." But as they stepped into the mill, the air changed. It was thick, heavy with realization. Something wasn't right. Just then, footsteps echoed behind them, and Clara's pulse quickened. "What have you done, Clara? You should have stayed quiet." It was Sal, flanked by 2 burly men whose expressions told her everything. She held her breath, every instinct screaming to run. But as the weight of her father's love coursed through her veins, she knew she had to stand firm. As the confrontation loomed closer, one that could alter the fate of everything she fought for, she prepared herself for the battle ahead. Could she really protect her community? Or would Sal crush her like a tiny bug underfoot? With a deep breath, she locked eyes with her supporters. "Let us show them what we're made of." And as the dark intentions of Sal closed in on them, Clara could only wonder, would this be the end, or the beginning of everything she ever fought for? The tension hung in the air like a thick fog as Clara faced Sal. His eyes glinted with malice, and the burly men behind him shifted, ready for any signal. The sheer weight of the situation bore down on her, but memories of her father's warm, unwavering gaze pushed her forward. "Clara," Sal sneered, stepping closer, "you think you can stir up trouble and walk away unscathed? This is my town, and you're just a little girl playing at being a hero." Her throat was dry, but Clara felt the warmth of her supporters gathered behind her. James's grip on her arm tightened, a silent pledge of solidarity. "We're not afraid of you, Sal," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This ends now." Sal laughed, a low and mocking sound that grated against her resolve. "You really think a few scared kids can take on me? This is a waste of my time." He waved a dismissive hand at his men. "Do what you need to do, boys." Panic surged through Clara. This was not how it was supposed to go. She took a step back, urging her supporters to do the same, but they stood rooted, fear transforming into determination in their eyes. They wouldn't abandon her, not now. "You don't scare us, Sal," Sarah shouted, her voice echoing in the hollow space. Clara turned her head slightly, seeing the defiance written on Sarah's face. It gave her hope and strength. "We know what you've done," Clara pressed on, locking eyes with Sal, refusing to back down. "You think you can control everyone here. But that's not true anymore. People are waking up. They know they deserve better." Sal paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. For a brief moment he looked like a man caught off guard. Clara seized that opportunity. "You can threaten us, intimidate us, but no amount of fear will silence the truth." The muscle in Sal's jaw tightened. He turned towards his henchman and gave a curt nod. With that, they moved in closer, but Clara inhaled deeply, reminding herself that she had something they didn't. The power of a united community. "Stand with me," Clara shouted, voice echoing through the mill. Together we can fight this. The feeling in the air shifted. The supporters, emboldened by Clara's fearless spirit, stepped forward, creating a wall of solidarity. The silence in the room was deafening, and for a moment, even Sal seemed taken aback by their collective bravery. Moving past her fears, Clara pressed forward, channeling everyone else's resolve. Our kids, our future will no longer stand by and watch you ruin everything we care about. You're outnumbered. Sal clenched his fists, glaring at her. You'll regret this, he spat, his voice thick with venom. But before Clara could respond, a new sound shattered the tension. Another set of footsteps echoed from the entrance, this time with urgency. Clara turned to see figures emerging from the shadows. The weight of anxiety shifted within her, and she couldn't help but hope for the best. FBI. Hands where we can see them. The authoritative voice cut through the air like a knife, and Clara felt a rush of relief and disbelief. As her heart raced, she couldn't process how the tables were turning. Sal's expression shifted from smug confidence to panic as he realized the scope of his impending doom. Clara. His voice trembled, desperation creeping in. You have to listen to me. We can work this out. She took a step back towards her friends, the adrenaline surging through her veins. It's over, Sal. Your reign of terror ends tonight. As the agents moved in, it felt like the earth was shifting beneath them. Clara's simple hope for change had blossomed into something far greater than she ever imagined. Yet, as she stood amidst the chaos, conflicting thoughts churned within her. What had just happened? Would the feds really bring a lasting change? Or was this just the beginning of another battle? The feeling of triumph was bittersweet, tinged with uncertainty about what lay ahead. And in that electrifying moment, Clara realized the fight was far from over. What would the aftermath look like? Would she and her supporters finally find peace, or would Sal strike back in ways they couldn't foresee? Clara's heart raced as she watched the federal agents advance on Sal and his men. The tension in the mill crackled, alive with uncertainty and anticipation. Would this really be the end of Sal's grip on their town? Or was it just a detour on a much darker journey? The agents moved swiftly, their arms poised to restrain. Sal, flanked by his henchmen, appeared cornered, his bravado crumbling. He shot one last venomous glare at Clara, a mix of anger and desperation. Just remember, he hissed, this isn't over. I'll make sure of it. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. Even in his panic, he was dangerous. Yet, the growing support around her fortified her resolve. James squeezed her hand, grounding her reminders of community, of hope. We can't let fear take hold, Clara whispered to him, her voice barely above a breath. She turned back to face her supporters, who stood at the ready, united. This is just the beginning. For so long we've been silent, but no more. The agents closed in on Sal and his men, cuffs clinking into place. Clara's gaze flickered toward Sarah, who stood wide-eyed yet unyielding. The fear hovering in the air transformed into defiance. It was palpable, electric. One of the agents, a tall woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, approached Clara. You must be Clara. You did good here. Her eyes sparkled with pride, but Clara was torn between exhilaration and the weighty uncertainty of the future. I just wanted to protect my community. We've suffered enough, Clara stuttered, the earlier adrenaline morphing into raw emotion. Will this really change anything? The agent tilted her head, understanding glinting in her eyes. It can. But it's up to you and the people here to keep this momentum. Change doesn't come easy. It needs voices like yours. Sal's men, restrained and scowling, were led away. Sal himself was struggling, his bravado having evaporated. He looked back at Clara, mouth twitching in rage. It hit her then the shadow of his influence wasn't just a local threat. If he could come back, it meant they had to be prepared. And that responsibility weighed heavily on her small shoulders as the agents began to survey the scene and gather statements. Clara turned to her supporters, her gaze burning with resolve. We need to keep this fight going. We're more than just a movement. We're a community that deserves to stand together against fear and oppression. Will you join me? Sarah stepped forward, eyes bright with determination. Always. Whatever it takes. Others echoed the sentiment, voices swelling in strength and courage. In that moment, Clara felt electrified. Hope was alive. but the shadows of uncertainty loomed large over them. What kind of retaliation would Sal orchestrate while he was locked away? Would the agents truly protect them? Or were they stepping deeper into a dangerous game? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the mill, Clara's heart raced, a mix of triumph and trepidation. Gazes shifted to the thin line between light and darkness, and uncertainty wrapped around her. Word of Sal's invincibility hung heavy in her thoughts. But she gathered her breath, looking out at her friends. We'll face whatever comes next together. No more backing down. Unbeknownst to her, lurking in the shadows, forces were already twisting the threads of their story, eager to spark a new challenge. And Clara's journey was just beginning. What would this newfound unity demand of her? And would they have the strength to withstand the storm ahead? The aftermath of the agent's operation hung in the air, thick with a mix of adrenaline and raw emotion. Clara felt each heartbeat pulsing through her veins, igniting her courage like a firework set to burst. Around her, people were whispering, murmuring promises of loyalty and support. Yet she couldn't shake off the shadow of doubt that clung to her spirit. Clara, we should set up a meeting, James suggested, his brow furrowed in thought. With everyone. Make a plan for what's next. Yes, we need to organize. Clara nodded fervently. Ideas raced in her mind. We'll need a space. We should stream it online too. Make sure everyone knows we are still here, still fighting. Clara's mind whirred with possibilities. They needed more than just words, they needed action. Her heart swelled with hope as she imagined community members rallying together, amplifying their voices beyond the town's borders. But as she looked around, she saw uncertainty echoing in the faces surrounding her. Their collective hope felt fragile, like cracked glass. It's okay to feel shaken, she said, stepping forward. We've faced down fear today and we're standing. We choose to be brave. The crowd murmured reassurances, their spirits lifting slightly. However, underneath the surface, whispers of Sal's wrath hovered like storm clouds, ready to break. Sarah caught Clara's gaze, her expression torn between determination and apprehension. Clara, what if he comes back? What if he has people on the outside? Clara took a breath, the weight of Sarah's words sending a chill through her. Then we'll prepare. But we have to be strong now. We can't give up. Just then, the agent who had spoken to Clara earlier approached again. I heard your discussion, she said, her tone grave but compassionate. You need to consider safety measures. We'll provide assistance, but the best protection comes from being proactive. Besides, we can't keep them in a cage for too long. Clara gulped, the realization setting in. Sal wouldn't remain contained forever. And this battle wasn't won yet. What do you suggest? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. I'd recommend getting the town involved. Create a citizen watch group. Organize meetings to keep the community informed about safety protocols. Gather information on anything suspicious. Keep communication lines open. James nodded, taking Clara's hand. I can help with the tech side. I know a few things about setting up networks. Clara's heart lightened at his dedication. Then that's our first step. We're more than a movement. We're a family, and families protect each other in every way possible. Still, a pit formed in Clara's stomach. Would the peace be fleeting? A quick fix before the real storm hit? Was it enough to simply be vigilant, or did they need to go on the offensive? As the sunlight dipped behind the horizon, it painted a vivid orange across the sky, illuminating their faces in warm hues. The flicker of optimism brushed Clara's heart, but the weight of danger loomed. That night, Clara gathered her group, the energy buzzing with determination. Notes scattered across the table, pins and papers pinned to the walls. But beyond the noise lay the restless question. Would they be able to hold the fortress they were building against future threats? With every word she spoke, the resolve in her chest sparked brighter. They would rally together. They would not back down. Yet, a nagging voice in the back of her mind warned that every bright flame cast shadows. Later, as Clara returned home, the door creaked open, and the chill of the night wrapped around her. She felt it, the invisible menace lying in wait. What lay ahead would test not only their commitment but their unity. They were standing against a tide of trouble, but something deep inside urged her to brace for the wave. And as the moon shone bright above, Clara's phone buzzed with a message that would change everything, revealing that someone was already watching them. The bright screen of Clara's phone illuminated the dim hallway as she clicked it open. The message, brief yet chilling, read, "I see you." It sent shivers down her spine, a paralyzing mix of dread and anger weighing heavily in her chest. "Who is this?" she typed back, her fingers trembling slightly as she waited. Her mind raced. Could it be anyone? Sal? One of his goons? Or perhaps a misguided ally? The shadows around her suddenly felt thicker, pressing against her, closing in. Just as she was about to turn off her phone, a reply appeared. "Someone who knows what you're trying to do. Watch your back." Clara's heart raced. The walls felt as though they were closing in, the air heavy with foreboding. She pulled her sweater tighter around herself, a futile attempt at warding off the chill of fear that seeped in. What did this person know? Was there a traitor in their midst? A soft knock echoed from behind her. She spun around, heart pounding, finding her brother, Ethan, leaning against the door frame, a worried expression etched on his face. "Clara, you okay?" "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." She forced a smile, but it crumbled under the weight of her unease. "James texted me. Says there's a meeting at the old community center tomorrow. You going?" he asked, lingering in the doorway, his concern palpable. Clara nodded slowly, mind still dwelling on the message. "I have to. We all need to be there." Ethan pushed himself off the doorframe and stepped closer, studying her. "You're worried about Sal, aren't you?" She didn't answer right away. The truth hung unspoken between them. Still, she knew Ethan could sense it. "It's not just Sal. It's everything. We're trying to stand tall, but there's this darkness looming." "I get it," he replied softly. "But you're stronger than you think, Clara. You're not alone in this." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but she couldn't shake the foreboding tightening in her throat. "You should come to the meeting too." "I need more voices," she urged, trying to mask her fear with a sense of purpose. "Count me in," he said with a nod. Later, as they settled down for the night, Clara felt restlessness ripple through the house like a storm about to crash. She stared at the ceiling, thoughts swirling. Was she doing enough? What if her actions put her loved ones in danger? Sleep came reluctantly, interspersed with visions of Sal's menacing glare and whispers of betrayal. Morning broke, casting pale beams of sunlight throughout the room. Clara finished getting ready with an electric mix of nerves and anticipation. After breakfast, she grabbed her things, feeling the weight of her responsibility. The meeting buzzed with chatter when she arrived. Friends, neighbors, and allies filled the community center, their collective strength vibrant against the uncertainty beyond. Clara took a deep breath, letting hope unfurl in her chest, but the shadows still lurked at the edges of her mind. "Okay, everyone," she called, raising her voice above the hum. She could see James and Sarah nodding in support. "Let's plan for how we can keep our community safe. We need to share ideas, thoughts, fears, everything." But just as Clara started to outline her ideas, the atmosphere shifted. A figure stood in the doorway, partially obscured by the light. The murmurs dwelled into silence and all heads turned. Clara felt her stomach drop as recognition washed over her. Her heart pounded violently as she tried to make sense of the sight before her. The figure took a step into the light. "I think it's time we had a real conversation." A wave of unease swept through the room. This wasn't just another ally showing up. Who was this person? And what would they bring to the table? As the truth hung in the air like the remnants of a forgotten storm, Clara braced herself for the revelations ahead. Would they lead to unity, or would they shatter everything she had fought for? In that moment she realized one thing. The real battle had just begun. The figure stepped fully into the room, and gasps darted between the attendees like fireflies on a summer night. Clara's breath hitched in her throat. It was Madison, the woman they had thought was lost to Sal's grip forever. Her absence had cast a long shadow over their fight, making this reunion feel like a mirage. "Madison," Clara whispered, almost afraid to believe her eyes. Her heart surged with a mix of relief and curiosity. Madison's weary smile flickered as she moved further into the light, revealing shadows under her eyes, a sign of the struggle she had faced. "I came as soon as I could. I couldn't stay away any longer." The crowd parted, allowing Madison to step closer. Clara noticed the traces of fear and determination etched on her face. Had she managed to escape, or had she been sent to spy? "What do you mean?" Clara asked, her stomach twisting. What happened to you? Sitting around waiting while you all faced Sal alone wasn't an option. I needed to know what he's planning, Madison replied. Her voice steady but tinged with a current of urgency. We've all been targets to him, but now things are changing. I have information that could hurt him, and it's time the rest of you knew it. Her words ignited murmurs, some expressions hopeful, while others painted concern on their faces. Clara felt a surge of doubt. How can we trust you? She asked, her resolve hardening. Madison's face fell slightly, but she pressed on. You don't know everything. Sal has resources we can't begin to fathom. He has been watching you, Clara, every move you make. He knows you're planning something. That message you got? She took a breath, glancing around the room. It's just the beginning of mind games. A chill settled over the group. Clara's earlier resolve faltered, her breath quickening. What do you mean he's watching? Madison tilted her head, fixing Clara with a meaningful gaze. Surveillance, spies. His reach extends beyond what you see. You need to be smart and careful about how you proceed. Ethan moved closer, his eyes darting from Clara to Madison. What can we do then? How can we stop him? Madison gathered her thoughts, anguish battling with resolve. We need to form a plan, one that uses his own tactics against him. We can't fight this head on. We must be strategic. I can help. I've seen his operations up close. Clara nodded, her heart steadying as hope flickered. There was power in knowledge as long as they wielded it wisely. But just as the group began discussing actionable steps, a loud commotion erupted from outside the community center. A distant sound of sirens, followed by shouts that rippled into the room like a dark wave. Clara's heart dropped. Clara, we need to move. Ethan urged, panic rising in his voice. The revelation of Madison's return felt overshadowed by the encroaching chaos. What if this is what Sal was waiting for? What if he knows? Clara's voice trembled, vulnerability creeping in. But as they made to leave, Madison held Clara's gaze. No matter what happens next, we're in this together. Remember that, she said, her breath steadying Clara's rapidly beating heart. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Clara steeled herself. This was their moment to take control. But the stakes had never felt higher. As the noise grew louder, Clara realized the crossroads ahead. It was now or never. Let us move, she shouted, rallying the group with a courage she hoped could withstand the fury they were facing. But in that instant, she couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation was only beginning, with more secrets yet to unfold. What awaited them outside? And could they truly fight against an unseen enemy? The door swung open, heralding an uncertain future. Yet Clara felt the ignited spark of determination within her. She would not back down. She wouldn't let fear win. What new challenges lay ahead? And would they be ready to face the truth that followed? Clara braced herself as she pushed through the door, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The outside world burst forth in a cacophony of sound, an insistent reminder of the urgency slipping away. She turned to the group, seeing the fear reflected in their eyes, but also that flicker of hope Madison had reignited. Together they could thwart Sal's twisted plans. Stick together. We'll figure this out, I promise, Clara shouted, trying to infuse strength into her words. But as they stepped into the chilly evening air, a wave of apprehension washed over her. Police cars lined the street, their lights flashing, casting eerie shadows across the pavement. What is happening? Ethan shouted, squinting towards the flashes. The sounds of shouting were growing closer, drowning out any sense of normalcy. Madison moved closer to Clara, urgency threading through her voice. This is not just a random police presence. He knows we're here. We're the distraction. Those words sunk in like a stone in her stomach. What do we do? Clara asked, her voice barely a whisper. She could feel her heart racing, adrenaline flooding her veins. Listen. We need to split up, Madison said decisively. Create some chaos. If we move separately, it'll confuse them and give us time to regroup. We can use the buildings around here as shields. Shouts echoed from behind them. A group of officers was emerging, their attention on the community center. Clara's mind raced. But if we split up, what if something happens? Then we fight harder, Madison replied, her eyes fierce with determination. The fear on her face had transformed into something sharper. We don't have a choice. Trust me. We can't let him keep taking from us. Clara nodded, her heart aligned with Madison's resolve. As frightened as she was, the thought of leaving the others to fend for themselves was scarier. All right, I'll go left. You guys go right, she directed, trying to sound more certain than she felt. Stay in touch, Ethan warned, worry-lacing his words. If you see anything at all. The sirens blared louder, drowning him out. Clara's stomach twisted again, but she stood firm. I will. Just be safe. As they scattered, each person darting in different directions, Clara felt the cool night air on her skin, mingled with the heat of her racing heart. She slipped behind a nearby building, pressing her back against the brick as shouts echoed in her ears. Her mind raced through possible scenarios, fear grappling at her like a beast. What if they were caught? What if Sal's men were lurking? But she had made a choice. They were in this together, and perhaps splitting up was the only way they could truly gain any ground. But as she listened to the chaos unfolding around her, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, sprinting towards her. It was Mason, his face pale, eyes wide with panic. Clara, we have to move. Before she could respond, a gunshot rang out nearby. The sound was sharp and jarring, a gunshot that sliced through the nerves within her. Time felt suspended as she became acutely aware of the intensity of the situation. Mason, what did they want? She whispered urgently, desperately trying to piece together the fading threads of safety. They know about the meeting. But his words were drowned out by another echoing crack. This time it was closer. Clara's instincts kicked in, every fiber of her being demanding action. We have to regroup. We can't let them pick us off one by one. We stick together. As they hurried down the darkened alleyway, Clara couldn't help but wonder, what were they up against? Would they find allies in unexpected places? And most of all, would the truth they sought be worth the danger that encroached upon them? With every step, the stakes rose higher, and a new question loomed in her mind. How deep did Sal's deception run, and what shadows still lurked in the dark? Clara and Mason sprinted through the alley, the sharp sound of gunfire echoing in their ears, an ominous reminder that they were dangerously exposed. Heart racing, she looked over her shoulder, half expecting to see the shadow of a threat chasing them. Panic coursed through her veins, setting off a rapid pulse that drowned out every rational thought. Where do we go? Mason gasped, his breath coming in quick bursts, a mirror of her own racing heart. The weight of urgency bore down on them like lead. Back to the community center, Clara shouted, steering her thoughts to the only place where their friends might be. If we can reach them, maybe we can. Do you really think Sal will let us regroup that easily? Mason interrupted, his eyes narrowing. What if they're waiting for us? She paused, a surge of dread washing over her. What if they were already cornered? But before she could voice her worries, another gunshot ricocheted off the walls, much too close for comfort. Run! Clara yelled, pushing Mason forward. They veered to the right, setting their sights on a narrow opening between two buildings. The grimy bricks felt like a maze that could either lead them to safety or trap them forever. As they slipped through the dark passage, Clara's mind raced with thoughts of her friends. What if Ethan and Madison were caught? What if they didn't escape? The weight of their lives added another layer of urgency to her flight. Emerging onto a secluded street, Clara halted abruptly, her eyes scanning for any sign of the others. We need a plan. We can't just wander around hoping to run into them. I saw a parking lot a few blocks back, Mason suggested, his voice a shaky whisper. If we can stay low, maybe we can find something to hide behind until we figure this out. Clara nodded, appreciating his logic. The parking lot could offer cover, but it didn't address the real threat looming over them. Fine. But what about Sal? What's his endgame? His face twisted in fear and determination. If he thinks we'll unravel his plans, he'll stop at nothing to silence us. A group of officers appeared at the far end of the street, their flashlights cutting through the night like blades. Clara's breath hitched as she crouched down, pulling Mason closer to the shadows. They watched as the officers seemed to fan out, shouting commands into radios, their focus on the buildings around them. Mason, we need to move. Clara hissed. If the officers turned this way, they might not get another chance to escape. Just as they prepared to dart across the street, Clara's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She pulled it out, the screen lighting up with a missed call from Madison. We can't stay here, she urged, heart racing anew. What if Madison needed them? With a quick nod, they slipped behind a car and sprinted towards the parking lot. The blacktop burned under her feet as they found refuge behind a cluster of large dumpsters, where they could catch their breath. What now? Mason wheezed, trying to listen for the sounds of nearby footsteps. Clara's mind spun. We wait for Madison or anyone else, but they can't see us. The gravity of their situation pressed down on her, each beat of her heart pulsing with anxiety. Then, as if the universe could hear her despair, a shout echoed from somewhere in the distance. It was Ethan's voice, clear and resolute. Clara! Mason! Over here! Relief crashed over her like a wave. Clara shot Mason a look of disbelief before they scrambled from their hiding spot, racing towards the voice that felt like a lifeline. But as they got closer, the sound of shouting intensified. Fear gripped Clara again. What is happening? She asked, a knot forming in her stomach. What had Ethan stumbled into? And could they possibly be too late? The shadows closing in around them felt tighter than ever, and a new terror began to creep in. Was there any way they could navigate this web of deception and survive? Or were they headed straight into the heart of Sal's trap? Clara's heart raced faster as they moved, the chilling truth settling in. They might have underestimated the danger they were really up against. The moment of reckoning was coming, and nowhere felt safe. As Clara and Mason approached Ethan's voice, an uneasy feeling churned in Clara's stomach. They pushed through the dense shadows until the scene came into view. Ethan was in the middle of a standoff with two officers, their eyes narrowed, poised on the edge of aggression. You shouldn't be here. One shouted. Get back. Fear clawed at Clara as she grabbed Mason's arm, pulling him back. Was Ethan under arrest? We can't let them take him, Clara whispered, the urge to spring forward battling against reason. But if we rush in, Mason began. But Clara's heart was already thundering in her ears. If we do nothing, he'll get hurt. In that moment of desperation, a plan formed in Clara's mind. We create a diversion, she said, voice steady. If we can draw their attention, maybe Ethan can slip away. Mason hesitated but saw the fierce determination etched across Clara's face. Okay, but be careful. They separated, Clara darting to one side while Mason clung close to the remaining shadows. Clara's adrenaline spiked as she rummaged through her phone, her fingers shaking. She hit record and began to yell, "Hey! You better back off. Things are about to get ugly." The officers turned, surprised by the sudden distraction. "What are you doing?" One barked. That was the moment. Clara took a few steps forward, keeping their gaze off Ethan. She would do anything to keep him safe. "Let him go. This isn't right. You're making a mistake," Clara shouted, her heart racing wildly, needing to breathe life into her words. "What's it going to be, huh? Are you going to be the bad guys?" Those words ignited murmurs among the officers. They exchanged glances, uncertainty creeping in. Meanwhile, Mason edged closer to Ethan, the two of them whispering furtively. Clara could see both their eyes wide with urgency, but her attention remained locked on the officers, her heart clenched tight. Then, suddenly, the ground shook with the sound of approaching vehicles, sirens blaring and lights flashing. Panic rippled through the officers as they turned toward the commotion. It was the last thing Clara had anticipated. The stakes had been raised again. Clara seized her moment. Ethan now. Her brother took off in an instant, racing towards them as Mason joined his side, both breaking out of the confrontation. The diversion worked. They made it to safety. Clara's heart thundered with triumph, merging with the anxiety that still clung to her. Just then, a police vehicle screeched to a halt, and a familiar face stepped out. Madison, flanked by several other supporters from their group, eyes glowing with determination. Relief washed over Clara, but it was paired with confusion. "What are you doing here?" "We're not just leaving you to fend for yourselves," Madison said, her tone fierce as the others took positions around Ethan, Mason, and Clara. "We'll stand together." The officers cast wary glances at the new arrivals, hesitation creeping into their demeanor. Clara felt strength swell within her, the unity she had fought for right there in front of her. "You don't have to do this," she shouted, her voice carrying over the noise. An officer stepped forward, exchanging glances with the others. "We were just following orders. This isn't what it seems. That's the problem," Madison cut in. "You're being used to intimidate this community. We are not going to back down." The energy shifted. Clara could sense how the tide had turned. More townsfolk surrounded them, their solidarity visible, faces determined. The officers couldn't ignore that gathering force. Tension hung in the air, vibrating with expectation. "You don't have to protect someone who is hurting our community," Clara pressed, locking eyes with the leading officer. "This is a chance for you to do the right thing. Join us in fighting back." Whispers of uncertainty rippled among the officers, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Let us break the cycle," one officer finally spoke, voice shaky but filled with a flicker of resolve. "Let us join them." The affirmation echoed 1,000 hopes into Clara's heart. With the crack of dawn painting the sky above, Clara felt alive with possibility, her spirit soaring higher than ever before. The truth they fought for so long had made cracks in the foundation of fear. But as Sal's shadow loomed, a new understanding washed over Clara. The fight had transformed into something greater than just her. It was about everyone seeking justice, safety, and a brighter future. Together, they had ignited a movement, paving the way toward change no longer solitary but a united front. They would need to remain vigilant. Change wouldn't be easy, but the journey had only begun. Consolidated as one family, Clara felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, her determination fiercer than fear itself. Clara turned to her allies, feeling their presence empowering her. "This is just the start. We're not backing down. Not now." With their newfound unity, Clara looked at the sunrise, a warmth spreading through her heart. The shadows may always lurk, but together they would allow hope to flood their streets, shining brighter than any darkness Sal could conjure. The battle would be long, no doubt, but Clara knew she wouldn't walk it alone. They would face the future together, stronger, braver, and more united than ever before. That was Clara's promise, and she intended to see it through. This is not the moment to hold back. If you felt inspired by Clara's incredible journey, subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the message of courage and unity. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this powerful ending, share what resonated with you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear about this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's stand together.